All right. Hey guys, good to be back. Basically, you just saw me wash this car. So I'm gonna give you kind of a recap of where we are, what's happened as far as the last couple months, etc. So the car right now is pretty obvious. It's completely down to the frame minus the fuel tank. So the fuel tank is there and the fuel pump are in there. But since a lot of this stuff, I think it was nice for me to have a break without making these videos, and there wasn't stuff really to, there wasn't a ton of content worth making the video for. So things that have happened since you last saw, obviously everything was taken back apart. The axles are sitting over there. The rear mount radiator has been taken off. We're gonna replace it with, my car actually has the Zeus pickups for mounting a 626 radiator. This is a 626 chassis. So I'm gonna buy the mount and the radiator from Sawyer here in the next couple of weeks. And then we'll be able to mount that stuff and get all that stuff plumbed up. That's pretty much it. The motor, so it's been over 3 months now. I got word today that the motor would be ready next week. And yeah, I'm super excited for that. So we'll be getting that back here soon. Once we get it, I'm gonna have to put it back in the car, plumb everything back up as far as fuel and stuff. The car needs new fuel injectors. So I talked with Johnny Bolin about the fuel injectors for this car. The fact that they were clogged up so bad where they wouldn't even click open with methanol, he just recommended buying new ones because, that it's just kind of sketchy. I'm going to spend all this money on the new motor. And, when you're turning this much RPM, the thought of one of the cylinders going lean and going kaboom, just in the interest of protecting the investment, I'm gonna go ahead and buy 8 new fuel injectors for the injection. So that was done. All of the fuel lines were cleaned out with WD-40. They're sitting over there, ready to go. So that's pretty much it. So things that I told you in the last update video that didn't end up happening. This chassis has not gone back to Sawyer to get updated to 2023. So it's still the same thing. It's still a Panhard car. Nothing's changed really. I was able to talk to Austin Saunders, if you know who that is. I bought a new exhaust off of him, which I'll show you in a coming video whenever we get the engine back. But I talked to him, and apparently the bar that's bent back there, right behind the driver's seat on the left, that's kind of normal on the Sawyers, and that has to do with the fact that it's a wishbone car, and the way the geometry is with them designing it, the roll steer kind of just causes that damage to that bar back there on the left. So I don't feel super bad about that because apparently lots of people deal with that on these chassis, and it's really not a super big problem. The chassis was not sandblasted and powder coated. I had mentioned that as well. And that's just really cost saving. For me, I think my goal right now is just to run this thing, non-owning A-class, and get used to running, get used to doing setup and stuff. And really like the amount of money to do that, I don't think was worth it right now. The end of this year, maybe we'll reconsider doing both of those things, chassis updates and re-sandblasting and powder coating everything. But in the meantime, I'm just gonna kind of sand down anything where the powder coat's kind of worn down and repaint it black. So we'll be doing that. So that's pretty much it. It needs new brake lines. So I'm going to be buying some new brake lines. I'm thinking about whether or not I want to run the quick connect fittings for the brake lines so that I don't have to re-bleed the brakes every time that I take one of the axles out. I'm not really sure how often it's going to be. I'm taking the axles out once this thing is fully put together. So I might go ahead and just buy the lines and put it together and then upgrade that later down the line. Yeah. So this video, apart from cleaning the car and doing the update as far as things I just told you, we're going to be wiring a new chassis harness for the car. So, or a switch harness, whatever you call it. You might have seen in past videos, whoever wired the chassis harness for this car before, I don't know what they were doing. It was awful. Hopefully I have some old footage or pictures that I can put up on the screen now. It looks just freaking atrocious. So basically all that stuff is taken out of the car. This is a sheet of 25 thou aluminum. And what we're gonna do is cut out a new plate to mount the ECU, rectifier, and all of that stuff, the battery, and then it's gonna be bolted in here. I'm gonna come up with a way to bolt all that together. Then this is gonna be painted black, and we're gonna create a new switch panel, DIY switch panel, wire all this stuff up together with quick connectors, and then wrap it up so that it looks all nice. So yeah, that's what's next. I guess let's just cut this thing out to the correct size. On top, we're gonna have to fit battery and probably the rectifier. And then on the bottom, and probably a relay or two. And then on the bottom, we're gonna have to fit the ECUs. Yeah, I think that's enough room. Okay, so this is what we ended up with. You see, I'm not a perfect metal worker, but it's sheet metal, got 2 pieces of angle on the ends, in which, this is what we'll use to bolt it into the car here. We'll use bolts and some straps to bolt it into the car, and then there's one more piece of angle iron that goes, or it's not angle iron, it's aluminum, but there's one piece of 90-degree aluminum that goes down the center, and that's just to provide some strength in bending, because we're probably gonna mount the battery on top of this thing, and I don't have a lithium-ion battery yet that's super light. So that's what we ended up with. I'm fairly happy with it. It's not perfect, but for what we're doing, pretty good. Okay, so quite a lot of time has passed since the last time that I spoke to y'all. Basically, as of right now, I've riveted on these little straps, these aluminum straps, to the plate here, and I've put the steering column back in so that I can make sure everything clears. Now, what I'm gonna do is there's this little there's this little, I don't even know what to call this thing, that you put a 1/4-inch bolt through. That was just there. I don't know if that was added by Sawyer or if that was added by the person who had the car before, but I'm gonna use it. Okay, so now that that's locating that here, I can use these straps to bolt to these other 2 mounts, which just, they just bolt to the frame. So that's how we're doing this. These are they're some kind of steel, I'm not really sure, but these are bolted to the frame. We're bolting this here, and then this will be fully fixed in place after we do that. All right, so this is all mounted up. The only thing is this flexes too much for me. It's fully constrained, except for, the actual flex in the aluminum right here. This is flexing, and this is just a rigid piece, so it all kind of pivots about this. So what I've done is I've cut out another piece of aluminum, another little strap here, and it's gonna go right here. Something like that, and I'm obviously gonna need a larger bolt. So overall, putting this brace in helped it a ton. It's really smooth, I can move the entire car on the on the stands just by grabbing this and moving it around. So I think that's a W. So now we get to the fun part, and that's talking about how we're going to use this to load up all of the wiring for the accessories and stuff. So essentially, I had initially planned on having this be a little bit bigger and putting the battery up here as well. But right now I'm actually using a lead acid battery, and it just weighs way too much. I think this is kind of strong, but even with that, the battery weighs like 8 pounds. So I don't want to mount this up here. I want to mount it down by the floorboard. I didn't want to do that initially because I'm so tall. I'm 6'4". It makes it a little bit hard to get in and out with the battery being down there in the floor pan, but I'll just deal with it. So how we're gonna do this is this is the starter relay right here. It's going to be mounted about here. I might 3D print like an actual casing for it so I can screw it down. So there will be a 12 volt hot in the ground here from the battery that'll be connected. We'll distribute those to these distribution blocks right here and here. This relay right here is what's going to control the fan for the radiator. Obviously we have our our ECU and kind of our, what do you call this thing? This is like a piggyback unit to modify the fuel table going into the ECU so that we can actually tune it. On the bottom of the mount, since these can be bolted, about right here, I'm going to bolt the rectifier upside down, like that, with the wires coming like that. And then as well, I went ahead and bought a fuel controller switch, or a fuel pump switch, and that's also gonna go on the bottom right there. So if you're not familiar with one of these, basically my car's EFI. Whenever the engine stops running, that green signal right there comes straight from the tach. And whenever the engine dies, it will kill the fuel pump so that, God forbid, if I'm unconscious or something, and say I knock a hose off of the injection, it wouldn't continue spraying fuel all over me in an accident. So that's what that stuff is doing. Yeah, so really I think what's next is gonna be kind of figuring out how all this stuff's gonna go, and then kind of strapping it down, bolting it down, and we'll be good to go. But I think I'm gonna save that for the next video, actually, because I'm kind of tired. The garage is a mess, so I wanna clean it up, take a shower, go back inside. So I'll work on that in the coming days. I'll release this video here, and then that's what you'll see in the next video. The next video will be getting all this stuff actually bolted down. I'm probably gonna use Velcro for a lot of it, and then bolt down anything that I can bolt down. Kind of putting the floor pan back on, getting the battery, and then we're going to get all of I have new switches, new buttons and stuff for the actual switch panel, and I have a micron. So all that stuff, we're going to integrate. See on the ground there, that's the dash. The dash has been completely gutted. So we're gonna integrate all that stuff into the dash, wire everything, and get it looking all nice and cute in the next video. So I think that's gonna be pretty much it for here. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.